Whitney. She refuses to leave.
I'm going to tell you what.
I don't want to hear anything you have to say.
Yeah.
Excuse me. She needs to leave. I'm the hostess of the dinner, and her behavior is not acceptable. I'd like for her to leave.
I'll do whatever I can.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 4, Episode 3. And before we begin, I have never been this excited to recap an episode in quite some time. Baby, whatever I said about SLC in the past, I take it all back. The way you guys have applied the notes, everybody is working. Meredith at that dinner, honey, that dinner is going to go down in Housewives history. That was a top 5 moment. You have Miss Meredith going off the rails. She's talking in a British accent all of a sudden. Then you have Heather at the end throwing up on the Sprinter van. Mary reading Whitney for filth. I said, you couldn't even write this. That's how good this episode was, y'all. If you're not watching SLC, stop playing with me and go binge it. We're on episode 3. Episode 4 is about to be that girl. These girls, like I said, applied the notes and they are giving what the other girls were supposed to have gave, in the words of the iconic Rolling Ray. SLC's trajectory is reminding me of Potomac, where Potomac started off slow. The first 2 seasons were boring. Season 3 was when it picked up. That's when Candace joined. Season 4 was the peak, in my opinion. That was a phenomenal season. And then, of course, things went downhill when that whole mess happened in season 5. But anyway, let's not talk about that. And I know that I promised that episode 10 of New York would be out today, but I just said this episode was too good of Salt Lake City that they take precedence right now. Because, honey, this episode was a 20 out of 10. But y'all, with all that being said, let's just jump right on into it because you guys already know that we don't have a minute to spare. So we open up the episode with the rest of the women finally arriving at the Trixie Motel, and off rip, Mary had me screaming. She was like, is this named after somebody? Who's Trixie? And I just said, one thing about it, Mary is going to always be in her own world. I don't care what anybody says. Mary is needed for this show's success. And the fact that she's back on with all her commentary and the one-liners and the reads, baby, I am here for it. I said, Mary had me screaming from beginning to end. And it was so funny when Trixie Mattel came out and Mary got it like, oh, okay, so it's named after her. So Trixie's greeting all the ladies and Meredith says, we're happy to be here. But unfortunately, our trip got off to a rough start. So here goes Lisa talking about, yeah, I lost my ring, 60 G's. It just really sucks. If I'm being honest with you, I think that Lisa's handling this very well because for me, I would be distraught, especially since I'm not somebody who loses things. I would just be so angry to have $60,000 down the drain because that ring slipped off my fingers. Now, a few of y'all had me screaming in my last recap. You guys were in the comments saying that you don't believe that Lisa lost this ring and you think that it's some insurance scam. I said, not an insurance scam. So Trixie informs them that the other guests are already there and they're confused, like, wait, so Whitney was here the whole time? Because remember, in the last episode, they were trying to reach Whitney and she wasn't answering. So right when Trixie said that, Whitney and Angie K come out and it's immediately tense. Meredith was livid, and rightfully so. She's like, what the F is Angie K doing here? I didn't invite her. She goes on to say that it's very ill-mannered and very rude. Now, Meredith, you're better than I am because at that point, I would have told Whitney and Angie K to pack their bags and leave. You're not going to sit up here and disrespect me like that. It's not your trip. This is my trip. I invite who I want to invite. So don't you dare take it upon yourself to invite somebody that I clearly did not want there. Also, let's talk about this for a minute. Angie, where's your self-esteem? Where's your pride? Where's your dignity? Because there is no way on God's green earth that I am attending any event, vacation, any dinner that I was not invited to by the host. I'm not desperate to be anywhere where I'm not wanted. That's peak loser behavior. You will never see me begging for an invitation anywhere. If I wasn't on the top of your mind, then I don't need to be there. My self-esteem is way too high to beg for friendship and to beg for invitations.
No.
And another reason why I've never seen it for Whitney, because Whitney loves stirring the pot. She loves doing all this childish crap. Then when she gets called out on it, now she wants to deflect and talk about, oh, well, I'm just trying to be a peacemaker. Like, girl, no, you're not. Why would you do that? Once again, Mary had me in tears because Angie K went up to her and gave her a hug. And then in the confessional, Mary's talking about, who's Angie K? I said, exactly, Mary.
You know what? This is too much.
So at this point, Trixie's giving everybody a tour of the bedrooms and they're all selecting which room they want. And Meredith is still really irked at the fact that Whitney arrived before all them and she brought a +1 that she didn't want there. So at this point, we see everybody changing into their swimsuits and we have Angie K, Whitney, and Lisa by the pool. So Lisa's like, obviously, I don't like surprises, but I am really happy that Angie K is here. Now I said, Lisa, if you really are Angie K's friend, then you would not be happy that your friend is out here looking desperate and pathetic by being on a trip that she was not invited on. Because if I consider you a friend, I don't want to see you down bad. I don't want to see you out here looking thirsty and just pathetic. I don't. I want the best for you. I'd be like, girl, I love you. Pack your bags and go back home. This is embarrassing for you to be out here knowing that you weren't invited. So now we have Lisa going on about how she's surprised that Angie wasn't invited in the first place. And now Angie goes on to say that it was passive aggressive of Meredith to exclude her from the trip. Whether Meredith is being passive aggressive or not, you should just have enough self-esteem to not want to be somewhere where you're not wanted. That's just basic self-esteem 101, in my personal opinion. Whatever Meredith's motives were for not including you, you should not be this pressed that you just show up as Whitney's +1. So now we see Meredith walk out of her room, and of course she passes by Angie, Lisa, and Whitney by the pool, and she doesn't talk to any of them. So now she goes into Heather's room, and they're talking about the whole situation. And mind you, I guess Mary's room was right next door to Heather's because she can hear them. And Mary was like, oh my gosh, Heather has such a big mouth. So anyhow, Heather's like, I don't understand what's happening right now. This is your trip. Why is Angie there? And Meredith says, look, I'm not going to sit up here and dwell on it. She's here, so it is what it is. There are bigger fish to fry, a lot of other things happening in this world. I'm not going to make a big deal about it. So Meredith goes on to say that the past few interactions between her and Angie K have been very unpleasant and giving a lot of mean girl, nasty energy. Now, when they played the flashbacks, we saw that Meredith and Angie K got into it a few times last season. One was at Heather's book party. The other one was at the reunion. Now, I remember the reads at the reunion because Meredith told Angie K, like, look, sis, you're the desperado over here. You're the one who auditioned for this show 3 times and didn't get picked. Now, I liked how they had a nice spread outside. They had some sandwiches and a fruit platter, some other appetizers, and we see Angie and Whitney making their plates. And Mary comes outside to join them. So as Mary's walking, Angie K is calling her over. She's like, hey, Mary, come sit with us. Come eat with us. Let's talk. And Mary's like, can you not talk to me like that? And Angie's like, sorry, I said, Mary, I know you don't like the lady, but she didn't mean anything by it. She just wants you to sit with them and just eat with them. I just said, Mary has such a short fuse, because for Mary to think that Angie was being aggressive. Now, a quick side note. I am so upset that Mary will not be attending BravoCon this year. I think that maybe all the people and the crowds, I think that might be a bit too much for her. And I don't think that Mary would want to really hug and shake hands with all these fans. I don't. Mary seems like she'd be like, okay, get away from me. But I'm hoping that Mary changes her mind and decides to come to BravoCon, because BravoCon needs Mary Cosby. So Whitney's explaining why they came early, and now all of a sudden, Angie has a slight lapse in judgment because she decides to interject, and Mary shuts her down immediately. She's like, I wasn't talking to you, I was talking to Whitney. And the way Angie K's face fell, I said, Angie, if you don't take away anything on this show, Mary Martha Cosby is not the one or the two. And I don't know why you thought you would just sit up there and barge into their conversation. She was asking Whitney for the details, not you. So next time, sit there and eat your food. You know what came to my mind? For the next season of Ultimate Girls Trip, I want to see Mary Cosby on there. Imagine Mary Cosby with Giselle from Potomac, or Tamara from OC, or Candace from Potomac, the good folks over at Peacock. The next season of Ultimate Girls Trip, please get Mary Cosby on the line and pay her whatever she wants. Because that would be some good TV. Because the last few Ultimate Girls Trips haven't been giving. So at this point, all the ladies are by the pool eating lunch, and Meredith comes out to give everybody except Angie K gift bags. So of course Angie K is mad about that. She's making some snide remarks about, well, I didn't want a gift bag anyway with all those used gifts. And I just said, girl, be mad at yourself for coming on a trip that you weren't invited on. You have nobody to blame but yourself. So now we have Meredith giving them the itinerary for the day. And she's like, after lunch, we're going to go and do some shopping in town. And then she tells them that she wants them all to dress each other. So everybody's going to be paired up and they have to dress their partner up. So I think it was Heather and Whitney paired together, Lisa and Meredith, Mary and Monica, and then you have Angie K just by herself. And Meredith goes on to say, and Angie, I had no idea that you were going to be here. And now you have Angie getting all nasty, and she's talking about, well, I'm glad that you're acknowledging the fact that I wasn't invited. I said, girl, do you hear how crazy you sound? You're mad at Meredith because she didn't factor you in the plans because she had no idea that you were about to come anyway. Like that saying goes, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. You won a stupid prize coming on a trip that you had no business being on in the first place. So because Angie's in a pissy mood and she's snapping at Meredith, you have Monica in the background talking about, ooh, like somebody's sassy. And Angie's angry because she feels like, Monica, shut up. You're new to this group, not too much. So now, as they're all getting ready to go shopping, we see Angie, Lisa, and Whitney off to the side. And Angie's pissed off at Monica because Monica's making all these side remarks. So as they're talking, Monica comes up and she's like, by the way, I can hear you guys. So what's up? You're obviously upset about something. So what is it? So Angie K says, look, Monica, I don't appreciate you making all those snide remarks. And also, I'm the one who introduced you to this group. So you need to have respect for me. So now Monica's like, look, girl, you were being rude to the hostess. And I thought that I would call it out. And I said one thing about Monica. Monica said, I might be new, but damn it, you're not going to sit up here and sun me. I am not the one. I said, come through, Monica. I'm here for it. Again, this episode was just too good, y'all. I'm just so hyped. I'm just so excited because there's just so much to talk about. Like I said, I was thoroughly entertained from beginning, middle, and end. I didn't want the episode to end. So anyhow, they all arrived to the stores to do some shopping. And mind you, the outfits that they pick out at the store, those are going to be the same outfits that they wear to dinner. So anyhow, we see Lisa and Meredith picking out clothes for each other. Angie's picking out clothes for herself because, again, Meredith had no idea that she was coming, so she's on her own. Meredith was in that store pissed every time Angie opened her mouth to speak. Meredith was like, girl, shut up. And when Angie came out with this outfit on, and you had Meredith talking about she looks like a Greek tragedy. Meredith had me screaming. I said, Miss Mamas is never going to see it for Angie. So now we see Heather and Whitney picking out clothes for each other, and it's to be expected. They're all picking out these crazy styles. And then we see Monica and Mary picking out outfits, and I have to say, they both did a nice job compared to everybody else. I thought that the dress that Mary picked out for Monica was cute, and Monica loved it. And then the outfit that Monica picked out for Mary, that was also perfect for Mary, and Mary loved it too. She's like, oh yeah, I like this. I like how it's bright yellow, like it's perfect. And we know how critical and how picky Mary is, so to see Mary happy and satisfied with what Monica picked out for her. Now the outfit that Meredith picked out for Lisa, I said, Meredith, you clearly are holding a grudge, because why would you do that knowing that you guys are going to go to an upscale restaurant in just a few minutes? So Lisa's annoyed. She's like, I look like I'm going to the beach. It's this see-through top. And I mean, don't get me wrong. It was sexy, but it definitely wasn't an outfit that you would wear to an upscale restaurant. So Lisa is annoyed. She's like, wait, I have to wear this outfit to dinner? I mean, come on. I'm going to a 5-star restaurant and I have this see-through knockoff Givenchy shirt and this short skirt with beads all over it. It's embarrassing. But I said, Lisa, if it makes you feel better, everybody's outfits were crazy. It wasn't just yours. So just have some fun, take a few shots at the restaurant, and don't think about it. And at least you look sexy in your outfit. So I said, girl, it's not that bad. It could be worse. So at this point, they get on the van to go to dinner, and Lisa is complaining the entire ride there. She's like, first I lose my ring, $60,000 down the drain, and now I'm wearing this crazy outfit to a 5-star restaurant. This is so mortifying. I'm just so embarrassed. And I couldn't stop laughing. When they got to the restaurant, the hostess was like, oh, you ladies look beautiful. And Lisa was like, you don't have to lie. We all look a mess, but thank you for lying. Oh, and Mary had me screaming. She was like, Lisa girl, whoever picked out that outfit for you does not like you. Mary's commentary this entire episode was chef's kiss. I just said, again, you couldn't write this. Everybody was just on their A game. I mean, this dinner, this scene got better and better. Y'all did that. So they all sit down, everybody's in good spirits, they all order espresso martinis, and I love an espresso martini, but it depends on what I'm eating, because I feel like espresso martinis are best during dessert, not when I'm eating filet mignon and some mashed potatoes and asparagus or some pasta or a burger. You know what I'm saying? Like when I see people ordering them during dinner, I'm like, really? That's not going to mess up your stomach? But you know what? Let me not get off on a tangent about that. So anyhow, they all toast to a good dinner, and now Whitney wants to play a game. Now we know every time a game is played during dinner, things always go left. So Whitney says, I want everybody to share a fun fact about themselves that nobody else knows. So Meredith starts it off, and she says that when she was a little girl, she would always go to Palm Springs to visit her grandparents. So they're all like, that's it? Mary, once again, had me screaming. She was like, oh, shocking. Somebody give Mary a contract to be on Comedy Central, please. So Whitney says that a fun fact about her is that she journals a lot. It helps to get her feelings out. And I was like, once again, this is kind of boring. Give us a sexy, salacious, juicy fun fact. What's all this? So now Heather shares her fun fact, and she says that she's recently taken an interest in birds. And she's like, I bought a birdhouse, and I really enjoy watching all the birds come in and out. So now Mary interjects and says that she used to have a bird too, and how the bird was weird. Then she adds that the bird would be flying all over the place. And she was like, yeah, it was like a flying cat. I said, Mary is a true nut. She said a flying cat. Y'all, I screamed so loud. I said, I know my neighbors must be saying, what is going on? So Mary says that a fun fact about her is that she's like a socialite. She's always out. I said, you know what? It's Mary Cosby's world and we're just living in it. So Angie K shares her fun fact and she's like, I know I might look like a hard ass. I know I might seem like I'm a badass, but I'm actually really sensitive. So you already know that Meredith is annoyed. She's like, okay, girl, like just shut up. So Lisa reveals that she got a second piercing and she's like, oh my gosh, guys, like, I know, I'm just so crazy, aren't I? Like, look at my second piercing. So Monica calls them all out for being boring. She's like, I've heard better fun facts at the senior center where my grandma goes. So now she's like, let's really spice it up. I was having sex with my brother-in-law for the last 18 months. So they're all like, wait, what? Back it up. Whitney's like, girl, excuse me? When I tell you I was too done. Mary's like, well, okay then, let's cheers to that.
We drinking strawberry and champagne. Hold on, let me get a strawberry. Let me get a strawberry. I love it. Strawberry in my drink.
I got the impression that Mary was thinking, thank God somebody has a scandalous story, so now they can stop talking about me and my step-grandfather. Now, I don't know why I was so naive to think that they would actually have a fun dinner, because this first game was cute. They were all laughing, getting to know each other, and here's where everything goes left. Whitney says, let's play one more game. Let's play warm and fuzzy and cold and prickly. So they're all like, girl, what is this? So Whitney's like, I want everybody to turn to the person next to them and tell them something nice, and then also tell them something that they could work on. So already I'm just like, Whitney, why are you doing this? You already know that this game is about to end in an argument because these women don't like being told anything about themselves. A lot of you guys have unresolved issues with each other. So why would you even suggest this? Like, let's just be so for real right now. So Heather starts it off. She turns to Angie K and she's like, we've known each other for a long time. And Angie K interjects and she says, yeah, we go way back. Like, we go back to high school. So now they laugh about that. And now Heather gives her cold and prickly about Angie K. But mind you, Heather's hesitating and Angie's like, look, I'm a big girl. I can take it. Say what you have to say. So Heather says, well, my cold and prickly is that I don't trust you. So they're all surprised to hear that. And Angie's like, okay, I hear you, but I want to know, why don't you trust me? I'm really confused. So Heather explains her feelings and she says, I just wasn't here for you being all over Jen Shah last season, and then when that didn't work, now you're all over Lisa. And so they're like, girl, what? And just like I said in my last recap, I said, I will bet you guys money that Heather probably feels a way because she felt like Angie K rejected her back when they were teenagers, and she still feels a way about it now as a grown-ass woman. Because when she said, I've always felt like Angie K always chose everybody else except me. And I said, I knew it. Because one thing I've noticed about Heather Heather has always had that woe is me. Why won't you be my friend? Why don't you like me? I want to be with the cool girls. Just like me. Just pick me. Just choose me. She has always had that big pick me energy for Friends. And I can't stand watching it. And I had a feeling that she felt like Angie was the cool girl and Angie wasn't giving her that time of day, and she feels resentful about it. And it goes back to what I've been saying in previous recaps about previous seasons. The reason why Heather tolerated all that craziness from Jen, because she viewed Jen as the MVP of the show, and she wanted to attach herself to who she felt was the coolest and the most powerful, and that's why she took all that mess. And I loved how Lisa called out Heather. She said, well, Heather, that's not fair, because for years you were all over Jen, so should we not trust you either? And I said, that's a great point. So Heather is mad that Lisa low-key clocked her. So she's like, Lisa, why are you so pressed about my feelings about Angie K? And I just said, now, Heather, the way you insert yourself in other people's arguments, let's not. You're just mad that Lisa clocked you. It is what it is. So now we jump across the table to Meredith. Meredith is in the middle between Whitney and Mary. So she turns to Whitney and she's like, Whitney, my warm and fuzzy with you is that your intentions are always positive and always sweet. And then for her cold and prickly, she says that Whitney needs to work on her communication skills. So Whitney says, I'm actually in therapy for that. So it's funny that you mentioned that. Now, when Meredith said that, I said, Meredith, I like you, sis, but I need you to be upfront and honest. You know good and damn well that you are livid at the fact that Whitney brought Angie K. And I was living for the fact that Mary called you out. She was like, no, Meredith, that's not true. You're pissed at the fact that Whitney invited Angie on this trip. You were talking about it to us earlier. So it's clear that Meredith wants to sweep it under the rug, and she's like, I don't want to get into it right now. So now it's Monica's turn, and she turns to Lisa. She's like, Lisa, I love the fact that you're basically sitting here in this restaurant in a thong and you're going along with it happily. And now it's time for Monica's cold and prickly. So she says, look, as a woman who's going through a divorce and raising 4 daughters on her own, it was really hard to listen to you go on and on about losing a $60,000 ring. You just went on and on and on about it. So now Lisa interjects and she's like, I didn't go on and on and on about it. I just said it a few times. That's it. So now they play the tapes back and Lisa said it 7 times. So now Lisa says, you know what? I'm just upset because that ring was expensive and it also had sentimental value. So Monica goes on to say that Lisa's very blessed and so many people aren't, and for her to keep things in perspective. So Lisa's pissed and she's like, listen, when you can afford a $58,000 ring and you lose it, then talk to me. But otherwise, shut the F up. Now, Monica, here's where I have to just pause for a minute and I have to let you have it. Miss Mamas, I went up for you in the last episode. I said, while your money might be like Gina's on OC, there's a clear distinction because you have several storylines to give us. And I like your personality. But girl, now I have to dig into my Gina bag and quickly give you a read because you tried it. Monica, when you stepped onto this platform, you already knew what time it was. You are around rich women who are talking about rich things. This woman lost a $60,000 ring, and you expect her to shut up about it? I'd be pissed too. I remember I lost one of my Tiffany rings a few years ago. And till this day, I still talk about it from time to time because I'm pissed that I lost it. So imagine if it was a $60,000 ring. I'd be distraught. That's some crazy pea-brain logic to say because you're rich and other people aren't, you don't have a right to talk about when you're upset about something. That sounds crazy. Monica, if you're going to be on this show, I'm going to need you to leave the insecurity at the door because that's not Lisa's issue at the fact that you're going through it and she's upset about losing her ring. And that's been my issue with Gina on OC. She wants to whine and judge the other women for having money and then complain and mope about her situation. If you knew that you were going to be insecure around rich women doing rich women things, then this isn't the type of circle that you need to be in. I like you and all, Monica, but I said that's not right for you to dictate how Lisa feels because you're not doing well financially. She has every right to be upset about losing a $60,000 ring. And Monica, if you lost your $100 ring, you'd be upset about that. And would that be fair if somebody told you, well, you can't cry about your $100 ring because there are people out there who don't have rings at all? You'd be pissed. Monica, I'm giving you a warning, sis, because I would hate to have to put you in my Gina files. So at this point, everybody's irritated. Monica points out how she hates this game. She's like, this is a real shitty game, if I have to say. And I just said, but that was Whitney's purpose. Whitney lives to stir the pot and make things worse. She knows good and damn well they did not have to play this. They were having a nice time a few minutes ago. Now all of a sudden, they're at each other's throats. So now they order another round of espresso martinis. And here goes Angie K making things worse. She's like, let's all toast and say a Greek word. And she's teaching them the Greek word to say fake. And of course, she's low-key subbing Meredith because she feels like Meredith is being fake with her. So at this point, Angie's looking directly at Meredith because they're sitting across from each other. Now, a quick side note. I was surprised that Lisa was sitting at the head of the table. I felt like Meredith should have been at the head of the table since it was her trip, but I digress. So anyhow, since they're across from each other, she's looking right at Meredith. Meredith is irritated, and Angie's like, I came on this trip with good intentions. So Meredith says, look, Angie, I'm done with you. You were out there in public saying that you don't want to be friends with me, and I just don't want to deal with you. So Angie's denying it. She's like, girl, when did I say that? I never said that I don't want to be friends with you. Where are you getting this from? Who told you that? You're the one who's been treating me poorly. So Angie's going on about how rude Meredith has been. So Meredith is like, look, girl, if you don't like it, then just leave. It's not your dinner. It's not your trip. You weren't invited. Then she goes on to say that Angie is a user, and that really set Angie off. Now listen. Meredith told no lies when she said that Angie is a user. I always got those desperate vibes from her. Angie has always been thirsty to be on this show. Her tea was spilled at the last reunion when they revealed that she had auditioned for the show 3 times. And then on top of that, when she revealed that she paid $15,000 to throw the birthday party for Coach Shaw last season, and she did that because she wanted to be on the show. So it's been apparent that Angie wants to be on this show by any means possible. And if that means being close to anybody on this cast, she'll do it. So Angie's really pissed about being called a user. And she's like, really, Meredith? I'm a user, but you were the one who was calling me up, asking me for advice on how to build a home. And so Meredith is like, girl, let me write you a check to make up for that hour on that phone with you because clearly you're pressed. So now you have Angie going below the belt. She's like, girl, how are you going to write me a check? With what money? With that jewelry line that's collecting dust. I was like, well, damn. I said, not Angie talking about the jewelry isn't selling. I said, all right. So at this point, dinner has gone left. You have Monica yelling for them both to stop. Now you have Meredith screaming at the top of her lungs, and she's like, you can leave. You can leave. Then Meredith gets up to go find a security guard to escort Angie out. So she finds a waiter and she's like, excuse me, sir, that woman right there, I don't want her at my table. Please remove her. The way I was in tears watching this, I said, what the entire F is happening? The waiter was so confused, yet he was also trying not to laugh. He was like, okay, miss, I'll see what I can do. Heather's in the back talking about, Meredith, you can't see that that's a waiter and not a security guard. He can't do anything. So Meredith comes back to the table, and when I tell you that my good sis was spiraling, she goes on to scream at everybody. She's like, if you think that she's a great friend, you need to get it together. Then she turns around and calls Angie an ugly human being. And so it gets even worse. Meredith starts sobbing, and she's bringing up disabled kids and how they'll always be disabled for the rest of their lives. And she's sobbing. Everybody's confused. Mary's like, Meredith did not need that last drink because she is going off the rails. So Meredith runs out of the restaurant. She's sobbing. Lisa chases behind her to comfort her. She's like, girl, are you okay? And at this point, we just see Lisa hugging Meredith, and Meredith is hysterically crying. I was just like, Meredith, is everything all right, girl? Like, seriously, what's going on? Why are you this upset? I understand that you're pissed that she's there, but for you to be breaking down crying, you're talking about kids and what's going on in the world, and you're just this distraught. I was like, baby, get this woman a Xanax. So while Meredith is outside crying with Lisa, you have Heather back at the table, and she's berating Whitney. She's like, Whitney, this is all your fault. You started all this, bringing Angie here in the first place. Like, why would you do that? And I said, now, while Heather might get on my nerves, she's right. Whitney, you started this whole entire thing. There was no reason for you to bring Angie K on this trip. You were out of line for that. And if I were Meredith, I would have kicked you both out. Before I forget, when Meredith was going off on Angie, she was talking in a British accent. So they were all laughing like, girl, where is this accent coming from? So now we see them all making fun of Meredith and the accent. And now we flip back to Meredith and Lisa outside the restaurant. And Meredith is like, Angie has such disgusting energy, and I'm going through a lot right now. So now Meredith goes on to say that she has tea on Angie and her marriage. And she's like, you want me to talk about the husbands? Because I will. Like, don't play with me. So she tells Lisa, she's like, girl, that's your friend. Let your friend know. Do not F with me. I'm not the one or the two. So Lisa's like, girl, I get it. But Lisa's also upset because she feels like Meredith always does this, where every time she's mad, she'll pull out all these receipts about somebody's marriage, the same way that Meredith did to her last season. Then Lisa goes on to say that the real victim is Angie K. And I said, now, Lisa, here's where I have to get you together, because how can you say that Angie K is the victim? She set herself up for failure showing up on this trip in the first place. Can we also get into the fact that Meredith was giving us grade A soap opera acting? The sobbing, the get away from me, leave, like it was just so dramatic. I was living for all of it. The British accent on top of it. I said, girl, go ahead. If we see Meredith on The Young and the Restless or one of those other soaps, I will not be surprised. I said, because Mama was bringing out the acting chops, and I loved every single minute of it. So at this point, this crazy dinner is over. They get back on the Sprinter van to head back to the motel. And now we see Meredith on the van. She's still crying. Monica's comforting her. And Whitney's like, are you okay, Meredith? What's going on? Is it a family issue? And Meredith says, no, it's a friend issue. And then she says that she's not ready to talk about it. So Whitney's irritated, and she says, you know what, Meredith? I have to be honest. I feel like you're using this as a convenient excuse, because every time you're put on the hot seat, you're always dealing with some issue. 1 minute you're crying because your best friend's neighbor's cousin's dog died. Then you're upset that the milkman didn't come. I said, not the milkman. And I'm not going to hold you. Although I hate to give Whitney her props, Whitney was telling the truth with that. Because I do notice that every time Meredith is having an issue or she's having some conflict, she does pull that out of her hat about how she's dealing with a family issue or family crisis. That is true. And when Whitney said, we're all dealing with stuff, sis, but we all have to clock in and do our jobs and go at it when it's time to go at it. So Meredith is pissed at Whitney, and so they arrive back at the motel, and Meredith storms off the van. She's like, I've had enough. So as everybody's getting off the Sprinter van, we see Heather and Whitney still on the van because, mind you, Heather is sick. She had 5 espresso martinis, so she is shit-faced, okay? So anyhow, as Mary's getting off the van, she's like, I didn't come for this. I did not come for all this fighting, and they're not even good at fighting. As if this episode couldn't get even more iconic, Mary turns around to Whitney and she's like, I don't know why you had to say anything to Meredith. You know she's fragile. Why couldn't you just leave it alone? So Whitney's like, look, Mary, I was just saying. And now Mary cuts her off and she's just like, Whitney, just grow up. Stop being so childish. Stop the facade. Stop the charade. Just be Whitney. Like, I don't even know who Whitney is.
Grow up.
Mary, that's very offensive.
Grow up. You deny everything you do.
Oh, that's
all I
false.
said was
I own
you didn't have to
everything
say
I do.
anything to her. And own what you do. Own yourself.
I do. I own
No, you
myself
don't.
completely.
Own who you are.
So Whitney's offended. She's like, really, Mary? That's really messed up of you to say. So at this point, whatever pent up rage and anger that Mary had towards Whitney throughout the years, baby, it all came spilling out. Mary had one of the breakout scenes of the night. She's like, shut up, Whitney. The way you've talked about me over the years, you called me pornography. So Whitney's like, girl, what? I never said that you were in porn. What are you talking about? So now Mary's asking Heather. She's like, no, Heather, what's the word? And Heather's like, oh, you mean predator. She's like, yeah, that's it. You said that I was a predator. You tried to bury me, Whitney. You tried to get people against me. You talked so bad about me. You told the whole group that you were going to take me down. You went to the dirt for me, and I'm done with you. So before she walks away, she's like, are you okay, Heather? And I was on the floor. I had to rewind that part again. When I tell you, Mary Cosby came back with a vengeance. I was here for it. I said, Mary, that's right. Let it out. I said, don't spare Whitney's feelings. Whitney has been awful since she got on this show. And the way Whitney was gagged, she couldn't even speak after that. Whitney didn't know what hit her. I said, I'm here for it. Because, like I said, Whitney likes to throw rocks and hide her hands. And I'm so glad that Mary said, no, girl, I'm not doing this with you. You're fake. You're phony. I can't stand you. Leave me alone. Mary was giving me Kim Richards energy. That's what that gave me in that moment because she had had enough. She was tired of it and she had to let it out. I said, I know that's right. So now we end the episode with Heather telling the driver that she can't get off the van just yet because she's sick and she has her head down. And the next thing we know, we hear her throwing up. So now they open the Sprinter door to get her like a plastic bag. And when I tell you, Heather was done. You literally see her vomiting. And I was just like, Heather, it's no judgment because we've all been there. But I just said, Miss Girl, with you being on national TV, you need to have a limit, like no more than 3 drinks max. And I said, you know that driver is shady. The fact that she opened that door knowing that we would all see you throwing up like that, I just said, a mess. Now, Heather, if you were smart, you would have had them pull over to the nearest In-N-Out or McDonald's to get something in your system. Because I just said, that's a hot mess, vomiting on national TV like that. This whole entire dinner was a bust from beginning to end. I said, you have Heather all torn up. Mary's getting Whitney together. You have Meredith spiraling. Child, this dinner gave me a combination of Scary Island back in season 3 of New York and the iconic Amsterdam dinner that happened with Lisa Rinna and Kim Richards. That's what this gave me. I said, baby, this was a dinner scene for the ages. Definitely top 3. I'm going to call it right now. It might be premature, but I don't care. I'm willing to bet that this is going to be one of the best Housewives seasons across the board. Something in my spirit is telling me that these ladies are really about to take the #1 spot. Like, nobody else right now is seeing them except for OC. I think that OC is having a phenomenal season. But guys, that was my recap. I hope you all enjoyed. As you guys can see, I had a great time over here. Like I said, y'all, this episode was top tier. But guys, you already know what to do. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all later. Bye.